going to record on my computer this time. Okay, so by doing this, I would love the importer to give me a deposit, or to pay me in advance, or to put in place a letter of credit. We'll talk about letter of credit in a few minutes, okay? So this will mitigate the risk. Let's say, for example, that the importer gives me 50% cash by transfer from bank to bank. When he orders, I get 50% of the value of the order in my hands. So I feel secure to start producing, packing, and maybe shipping for him. The only risk I have is 50% that he should pay me, you know, depending on the terms that we have set together. Now, listen to me carefully. Shipping terms have nothing to do with payment terms. These are two different things. I can get paid as an importer 100% in advance, then I ship later. I can get paid 50% in advance, then I ship, and maybe I will be paid the other 50% when the container gets into the vessel to go. For example, when my container of wine gets into the vessel at the Toronto seaport, I get my other 50%. Then the product will ship to go to India, okay? Or I may have my other 50% after delivery in India, after everything cleared the customs. So shipping and payments are related, but it varies the way I'm going to make an offer, and I will negotiate with my buyer, and we agree on shipping terms and payment terms. But they are different. It doesn't mean that the day I ship, I get paid. It could be understood that way. It could be clear that way. So the Incoterms are not payment terms. It's different, okay? So if I go back to my graph, and I try to show you, let me go back to that graph right here. So if I'm an exporter right there, if I'm an exporter, okay, what is the most secure for me is cash in advance, be paid fully in advance. What would be the most insecure would be on consignment, or what we call open account, okay? Meaning I ship to you in India and then you pay me soon, right? Now, if it's a new client, I would never do that. If we've been doing business for many years, maybe I will get more supple with my payment terms. But when I do this, I'm taking a risk. Not necessarily that you're dishonest as a client, but maybe my buyer could have not get paid by his distributors or clients themselves. So his money is not coming in, so he has no money to pay me. That doesn't make him dishonest. Maybe there's a cash flow problem. Maybe there's a COVID-19. And then the economy stops and the money is not coming in. And he has no cash flow to pay me, right? He's not necessarily a crook. He's just stuck in a situation, right? If he's a new client and he's a crook, he convinced me, he will pay me later, he will get the goods, he will sell it, he will keep the money and not pay me. That happens too, right? So I have to understand my my position, which is at risk in the payment, okay? But same applies for the importer. If I ask him to pay me in advance, he sends the money to me, and then I'm supposed to ship. and there's a COVID-19. And then there is no shipment because there is no manpower at the dock, because nobody's allowed to go to work. So the stuff piles up at the seaport and it's not shipping. And I send the money. Now, if this is the case, like 3 months ago, I sent the money, but my stuff hasn't shipped. Hopefully, it's not a time-sensitive material. It's frozen, it's dry goods, it's machinery, it's whatever, grain, pulses, spices, doesn't matter. It can't stay there. But I'm out of that money and I'm not getting my goods that I can resell and make money with. That doesn't make me a crook, the shipper. But then again, I can get the money and never ship. Take the money and go to the beach. That happens too, right? So we have to understand that as an importer, the least secure would be payment in advance. Hence my graph right here. Now, the best security for me would be open account. You send to me as an importer and I will pay you later, right? I'm trustworthy. I show you I'm trustworthy. Now, just like that, it's very, very dangerous. Even if you married the daughter of the importer, right? So you feel secure. Maybe your father-in-law is completely dishonest and will not pay. You know, this is not a safe guarantee, okay? Maybe you said something one day and he's upset at you and he wants to teach you a lesson. Whatever it is, the case. We should never do something like this. So we have to take precaution. We talked a few times before with EDC, Exportation Development Canada. Other agencies exist. So let me show you edc.ca. I will go to the, you see a blank screen, right? It's why? It's EDC, yes? You see EDC? Yes, yes, show me, yes. Very good. So let me go to the English side. And at EDC, they can help me manage risks. Okay? So they can permit me to get credit insurance. What that is I would insure my receivables. So if the importer is trustworthy, a solvent, EDC would verify if it's the case. And if it's the case, they would offer me an insurance policy for my client. It's very inexpensive. It's like 1.2%, 0.0012% of the value of the transaction. Okay? So such an insurance policy for a container of a $20,000 material would be as cheap as maybe $75 to insure the receivable, because EDC has checked that the buyer is trustworthy. They have access to database, world size database done in Bradstreets and banking information. If the client is visible in some of these databases. If he's not visible, that means he's not transparent. That means he's not clear with his banks. Maybe he has not a clear accounting. That doesn't mean he's not trustworthy. That doesn't mean it doesn't show as trustworthy in those Western value database used by the banks. Okay? That doesn't mean it doesn't have money. It doesn't mean that it does not appear clearly. So if I work with Western countries, Canada, United States, France, UK, Germany, Belgium, all our companies have traceability credit-wise. If my company pays its bills and banks and credit cards and invoices, it will show. If I don't pay, my company doesn't pay, it will also show. That's how such a company like EDC and others who do similar things, Euler Hermes, Coface for the French, do this. So I can get credit insurance for my export sales. So if my customer doesn't pay, EDC would pay 90% of the value of my invoice. On my invoice, I'm making money. So 90% of that invoice, this means I'm making less profit. Let's say I'm making 30% profit on my invoice. So I would only make 20% instead of 30. And they would give me the remaining 10% minus some management fees once they get the money in their hands. So I could recover 6, 7, or 8% later once they get the money from whoever. Now, this helps me manage my risk of an open account. Do you understand? But before I offer an open account to anyone, any importer, I would insist my first offer would be, I want, especially with a new client, I want to be paid cash in advance. This is how I would propose. Now I understand it's unbearable for an importer to pay me cash in advance, although in many African countries, this is the way it's done. Because banks are not solvent, companies are not solvent. So if they want to do business with me, they understand I want to be paid in advance. Me, a Westerner. Because we are officially maybe more trustworthy. I don't know if it makes sense. That doesn't mean it's true. It's a point of view. Okay? So it would be a normal thing for me to ask for a sub-Saharan African company to pay me in advance, which he should refuse and say, I'm not going to do this, because again, if he pays me in advance and I don't deliver the service or the goods, they lose their money. Now, if I'm supposed to be solvent, they should find certain traceability with this with an insurance company specialized in insuring a receivable, something like this. Now, they could verify if I'm a solvent company or not. It would not be very useful for a solvent individual, because they have, see, if I sell as a Canadian to a sub-Saharan African company, a Canadian company, and if I don't pay, what can they do? Sue me from Africa? They would hire lawyers to take me to court? Who's going to make money? The lawyers, not the African company. And me, I'll laugh it off and I won't pay. Even if we go to court in front of the judge and judge says, Mr. Miville, you have to pay. Well, yes, thank you. But if I don't pay, they need to put in action a perception for that judgment. It's a whole different process. We don't want any of this. We don't want any litigation. We don't want to make it difficult. We want to do good, profitable business. So, this is why we have letters of credit. Now, a letter of credit, we're going to see, I'm going to show you 3 videos in a row. 1, 2, 3. Letter of credit is a contractual form between a buyer and a seller that is done from bank to bank. The business is not between my importer and me, the exporter. It's done between my bank and his bank, not us. The banks are doing the financial transaction together based on documents. So we have a contract between buyer and seller. I'm selling you these goods. You're buying these goods. I have to supply you with documents that will be in the letter of credit. So the bank will receive my documents and send it to the other one's bank. If the documents comply, the importer's bank will pay the exporter's bank and then will give me the money. And in order to have a letter of credit open from the importer has to put the money in his bank. No letter of credit are issued from any bank in the world if the bank doesn't have the money. So if I want to open a $20,000 letter of credit, I have to give to the bank $20,000. Then they will open the letter of credit. It's very important. Okay? So it becomes more secure. Now there is, and we'll see, there is another possibility. It's called sending the documents on collection. We'll see those two items in a few minutes. So as an exporter, I'm sending goods to an importer. The goods will go on a vessel to go to destination. If I don't want to do a letter of credit, which is the most secure way of doing things, I will propose collection of documents, meaning I, the exporter, when everything is ready to go into the vessel, when it's inside the vessel for shipping, I get a series of documents. Documents will be given to my bank. My bank will send the documents to the importer's bank. So the documents will go in between. When it arrives at importer's bank, the importer, if he wants to get the document to pick up the goods from the shipping company, he needs the document for customs, for importing, for tax. And there is one document we explained to you last week that is the legal property, which called the bill of lading, issued by the shipping company, maritime only, maritime shipping company. It's called a bill of lading. I've mentioned this many times in the course before. So that document is in the hands of the bank. Now to get this, the importer has to pay the bank. If he doesn't pay the bank is not going to give the documents. That's called documentary collection. It's safe. So the importer will pay the bank will give him the documents, and then with the documents, he will pay, he will be able to get the goods from the shipping company and then clear customs. This is very safe. But let's say I'm sending black peppercorn from India to Canada, and with document collection. So the Indian spice supplier shipped the goods on a vessel to Canada, sent the document from his bank to my bank. But by the time we made an agreement and the pepper is sailing, the price for that commodity, black peppercorn, drops. The demand slows down. COVID-19, overproduction in China, whatever. Price goes down. So what I bought at 45 cents is now worth 36 cents. So I, in Canada, would say to my bank, I'm the importer. I would say to my bank, who has the documents, I would say, I'm not picking it up. So the bank would have nothing to do, could return the documents to India because I'm not picking it up. I'm not paying for it. This is a breach of contract because we have a contract, but I'm not picking it up. I'm dishonest. I'm not respecting the contract. I don't want to pay. Now, if you've insured your receivables, you don't care because you will claim EDC or India, whatever, or COFAS or Euler Hermes. Euler Hermes is a German EDC, but it works with anywhere in the world. COFAS is a French EDC, but will work with Indian companies. Gladly, will insure your receivables, sending to Canada, no problem. If I don't pay, COFAS will pay you. Then COFAS will run after me. COFAS has the possibility to do that. They have their own sets of way of running after unpaid receivables. They're professionals. They know what to do. They normally would work with embassies. So EDC, for example, I'm sending goods to India. India doesn't pay me. The Canadian embassy would get involved. And they would help run after the Indian company who's not paying. So imagine you're an Indian buyer, you don't pay my invoice. The Canadian embassy would knock at your door and say, you own business to this Canadian company. We're going to sue you if you don't pay. You have to pay. And then normally they pay very quickly because of this diplomatic pressure. Now, if they wouldn't pay, the Canadian embassy would put pressure on the Ministry of Commerce of the country and say, this company in Mumbai is not paying. So somebody from the government would knock at the door, maybe with the police, and say, you have to pay the Canadian company. So you'd be forced to pay. That's why you take the insurance. So if you have a letter of credit, it costs a bit more, not much. A letter of credit for $20,000, $30,000 to $40,000, $50,000 container would cost anywhere between $500 to $700. Okay, it's a cost of operation, so you put it on top of your price. My price is $40,700 for the container because you put the price of your financial operation on top of it. Okay. Now, if I go back to my graph, you understand a bit more. Now, look at this graph. It will be on the video. You can look at what I search. I search this managing international payment risk. This will be a question for the exam. Am I clear enough? That graph. All right. So make sure you understand what this is. Good. Now, letter of credit being the most used tool in financing our operation. Now, if I'm going to send a container of wine from Canada to India, guess what? India will have to open a letter of credit to the seller in Ontario. So the Indian group, I want to see that in your PowerPoint presentation, on the financial aspect. Yes, I see Parma who's telling, ooh, I have to add this. Yes, you do. That's why I like to see you on the screen, because I only see one. All the others are gone. So yeah, no, thank you. Okay? Because I have many screens. So you see my screen, but you're not seeing me. Let me go back. Stop sharing. Where's everybody? Right? Frédéric has a camera, but she's never been using it. Gurjan comes and goes. Nishtint, I don't know. And yeah, very well, welcome. See, because I feel that maybe you're listening to me. Otherwise, I don't know. You're in the kitchen, cooking some rice. You're in the bathroom, brushing your teeth, listening to my voice away. And it affects me deeply, and I feel that I'm useless. So if you're there, I'm more comfortable. I will put those links after class on the TAV page on Facebook. Okay? Now, let me put a few videos that was changed. I will spare my voice for a little while. I will show you one video after the other on the letters of credit. They will be made available to you on the TAV page, but let's have a look at them. Then I want from you questions regarding that. I want you to ask me questions, okay? All right, so let me prepare this. One. Okay, let's share this.
Hi, I'm Sam, and I want to tell you all about letters of credit. And along the journey, this might even help your clients.
Did you know SMEs account for 99% of UK businesses, and 46% of them experience some form of cash flow problems? Most of the trade in the world is done internationally. In order to facilitate this, a business needs to have trade agreements with their partners and counterparts. Trust is incredibly important when agreeing payment terms. Putting this on a scale, at the riskier end, trade can be done on open account terms, where the risk of the seller bears the risk of not being paid. A letter of credit, or LC, is less risky, and in this video, we'll explain why. Here at Trade Finance Global, we help companies find debt funding in the market with various financing structures to meet the business's needs. We want to help you explain debt terms to your clients and help grow your clients or help recognize future cash flow challenges. A letter of credit is relevant where there is an exporter and an importer, and there needs to be prepayment or confirmation of payment in order for goods to be shipped. A letter of credit is an instrument from a bank which guarantees a buyer's payment to a seller if certain criteria are met. If the buyer can't pay up, due to the agreed contract through the letter of credit, the bank will cover the remaining price. Letters of credit are fundamental components of international trade. They are governed universally by a set of guidelines called the UCP 600, which are issued by the International Chamber of Commerce. So, what is a letter of credit? An LC is a legal document that comes from a bank with a promise to pay the holder.
Sorry?
Why is it not clear earlier? So now it's good.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Why is this not clear? The video.
The video is not clear. Is that the same for everyone or just for you?
Only voice. Video is clear, but I'm talking about voice.
There are some voice problem in the video, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start again. I'll try to turn off my sound.
There's two sounds coming from the videos. That's why.
Okay, let me turn off my microphone.
So the sound is echo. The sound is doing echo.
If the holder fulfills certain obligations. Obligations include payment when the goods are shipped if certain criteria are met. A
letters of credit, and along the journey, this might even help your clients.
Did you know SMEs account for 99% of UK businesses, and 46% of them experience some form of cash flow problems? Most of the trade in the world is done internationally. In order to facilitate this, a business needs to have trade agreements with their partners and counterparts. Trust is incredibly important when agreeing payment terms. Putting this on a scale, at the riskier end, trade can be done on open account terms, where the risk of the seller bears the risk of not being paid. A letter of credit, or LC, is less risky, and in this video, we'll explain why. Here at Trade Finance Global, we help companies find debt funding in the market with various financing structures to meet the business's needs. We want to help you explain debt terms to your clients and help grow your clients or help recognize future cash flow challenges. A letter of credit is relevant where there is an exporter and an importer, and there needs to be prepayment or confirmation of payment in order for goods to be shipped. A letter of credit is an instrument from a bank which guarantees a buyer's payment to a seller if certain criteria are met. If the buyer can't pay up, due to the agreed contract through the letter of credit, the bank will cover the remaining price. Letters of credit are fundamental components of international trade. They are governed universally by a set of guidelines called the UCP 600, which are issued by the International Chamber of Commerce. So, what is a letter of credit? An LC is a promise written on a legal document that comes from a bank with a promise to pay the holder if the holder fulfills certain obligations. Obligations include payments when the goods are shipped if certain criteria are met. A letter of credit is usually used when the buyer and seller do not know each other very well, and this is why it is used so frequently in international trade. Letters of credit are incredibly specific, and a close attention to detail is required. If there is a misspelling in the contract, for example the name of the goods is incorrectly spelled, there may be a non-payment until a new corrected LC is issued and accepted. So, what are the advantages of LCs? For the buyer, they are certain to receive the goods as stipulated in the letter of credit, and they do not need to pay for the goods up front. For the seller, they're somewhat protected against non-payment from the buyer. There are lots of different types of LCs, and I'll cover most of them today. Often, people get confused between commercial letters of credit, which act as a primary mechanism for a transaction, and a standby letter of credit, the secondary payment mechanism, a fail-safe guarantee. Depending on the perspective of the buyer or the seller, there are also import letters of credit, set up by the importer or buyer of goods or services, and exporter letters of credit, which are set up by the exporter or the seller. So how does a letter of credit work? On behalf of the buyer, the issuing bank promises payment to a seller or beneficiary. An advising bank may act on behalf of the seller. The advising bank will receive payment, normally when they have been presented of specified documents representing the supply of goods. So, why are letters of credit used? They're safe. Letters of credit are usually legally binding, and so all parties need to agree to cancel them. They offer clarity. The goods defined in an LC are specific and well defined, so the details of a transaction are generally very transparent. They offer risk reduction. The exporter or payment to the seller is guaranteed payment, providing the terms of the LC are met. They allow for safe trading. Letters of credit are a focus of international trade and allow companies to trade safely in unfamiliar markets with unfamiliar suppliers. They're efficient. Letters of credit can be raised electronically using an online trade banking service. There are several different types of letters of credit. I'm going to cover a few of them. The irrevocable letter of credit allows cancellation or amends to the letter of credit by the buyer if the buyer's bank, seller, and/or seller's bank agree. A confirmed letter of credit is a second guarantee by the seller's bank. It adds additional security for the seller. It means that if the issuing bank from the buyer fails to make a payment, the seller's bank agrees to guarantee payment. A transferable letter of credit can be passed from one beneficiary to others. They're commonly used when intermediaries are involved in a transaction and others are supplying the seller in the transaction. A letter of credit at sight. These are payable as soon as the agreed documentation has been presented and verified. Deferred or usance letters of credit means that the payment to the seller is delayed until an agreed period of time has passed. A red clause letter of credit permits the seller to receive partial payment from the issuing bank prior to shipping the products or performing the services. So how is payment collected on letters of credit? To receive payment, the beneficiary must present documentation of completion of their part in the transaction to the issuing bank and must present documents such as invoices, bills of exchange, or government documents.
Thanks for listening to this talk on letters of credit by Trade Finance Global. Be sure to check out our other training videos and don't hesitate to be in touch with Trade Finance Global should you have any questions.
Hi everyone, in this video we will look at an overview of how a side letter of credit works. As discussed in my previous video, which is methods of payment in international trade, we noted that if the exporter is new to the importer and the importer is new to the exporter, there is no trust between both parties. So, the exporter will certainly want advance payment and the importer will certainly want open account. So, this is how the bank enters into the picture. And the bank had invented two methods of payment, which are documentary collection and documentary credit. Under documentary collection, we have SIGHT, which is documents against payment. Under usance, we have documents against acceptance. Looking at the second method of payment, which is documentary credit, also known as letters of credit, we have two types, which are SIGHT and usance. Now, in the next slide, we'll be looking at how a SIGHT letter of credit works. This is a quick overview of how a SIGHT letter of credit works. Before I begin going into further detail, there are technical names assigned to the parties in this diagram. The importer is known as the applicant. The importer's bank is known as the issuing bank. The exporter is known as the beneficiary because the exporter will benefit from the letter of credit. Looking at the slide, we can see that the exporter is based on the left-hand side and the importer is on the right-hand side. So both parties have entered into a contract and then subsequently nominated the method of payment to be SIGHT letter of credit. The importer will subsequently apply for the LC with the issuing bank. The issuing bank will issue the LC and the LC will nominate an advising bank. The duties and responsibilities of the advising bank is to authenticate and advise the LC. So, what is an LC? The letter of credit is an undertaking of payment given by the importer's bank to the exporter for a specified sum, provided that the exporter ships out the goods and presents the required compliant documents by a predetermined deadline. So once the exporter has received the letter of credit, the exporter will check the letter of credit to check whether it matches with the terms of the sales contract. Once the documents both match up, the exporter will ship out the goods over to the importer. Once the exporter has shipped out the goods to the importer, the exporter will prepare the trade documents. And the exporter will check to ensure that the documents comply with the terms of the LC. So once the terms of the documents comply with the terms of the letter of credit, the exporter will then submit the documents to the nominated bank for negotiation. The advising bank, which is the nominated bank, will subsequently examine the documents to check that they are 100% compliant with the terms of the LC. If the documents are 100% compliant with the LC, the advising bank will subsequently send the documents over with a covering letter to the issuing bank. The issuing bank will check on their side whether the documents are 100% compliant. Now, if the documents are 100% compliant with the LC, the issuing bank will make payment directly to the nominated bank. Once the nominated bank has received payment from the issuing bank, the nominated bank will forward the payment over to the exporter. Meantime, the issuing bank will inform the importer that the documents have arrived and the issuing bank has already checked to ensure that the documents are okay. Therefore, the issuing bank will subsequently demand for the importer to make payment. The importer will have to pay the issuing bank in exchange for the documents. once the importer has paid the issuing bank will release the documents over to the importer so that the importer will be able to take possession of the goods when the goods have arrived at the port. This is an essence of how a site letter of credit works. If you like our video, please give us a thumbs up. Also, we appreciate your comments or feedback. More videos will be coming soon. Please click subscribe to this channel if you would like to be posted of any upcoming videos. Hi. Please click subscribe to this channel if you would like to be posted of any upcoming videos.
Credit. In a previous video, Niryat Bandhu explained to Niku the various payment methods, one of which was letter of credit. Since LC method is an important method of payment, we will explain them in more detail here. To begin, an LC payment involves the buyer's bank and Niku's bank. Payment is made when seller submits the documents such as invoice, bill of lading, etc. to her bank as proof of shipment. The LC protects the seller against payment default by the buyer. An LC also protects the buyer since no payment obligation arises until the goods have been shipped by seller as promised. Who are the parties involved in a letter of credit? The applicant is the buyer who approaches its bank to issue an LC in favor of the seller. The buyer's bank is called the issuing bank. Niku, the seller, is the beneficiary in whose favor the LC is issued. Advising bank is the bank which receives the LC from the issuing bank for the beneficiary. Besides the advising bank, there can also be nominated bank and a confirming bank on behalf of the beneficiary. What are the steps in a letter of credit? Buyer and Niku agree to the terms such as means of transport, period of credit offered, the last shipment date acceptable, etc. Buyer applies to the issuing bank for the issue of LC. Bank then evaluates the buyer's credit standing, etc. On issuing the LC, the issuing bank sends it to the advising bank through mail or electronic means such as SWIFT. Advising bank informs Niku. Niku checks the conditions mentioned on
as well as Incoterms because they're important as standalone subjects, but they also build upon one another. That leads us up to our final installation, which is letters of credit for importers and exporters. So let's jump right in. Should take about 45 minutes or so.
I'm about to show you the quickest and easiest way that anybody can make a
the LC against the agreement. Niku ships the goods and puts together the documents like bill of lading, etc. called for in the LC and submits to the advising bank. Advising bank checks the documents against the LC. If found correct, it pays Niku and forwards the documents to the issuing bank. Issuing bank debits the payment from the buyer and releases these documents to the buyer. What are the benefits of letters of credit? Letters of credit are legally binding and all parties must honor it. So, they offer less risk for the buyer and Niku. They reduce ambiguity and increase transparency for both sides as the details about the goods, its delivery, etc. are all well defined in an LC. Letter of credit operations are governed by UCP rules framed by the International Chamber of Commerce, that is ICC. LCs are internationally used. It provides firms confidence to trade in unfamiliar markets with unfamiliar suppliers. What are the different types of letters of credit? Irrevocable letter of credit. A revocable LC can be changed or cancelled by the issuing bank on its own. On the other hand, an irrevocable LC can be changed or cancelled only when all parties, that is, the buyer, seller, and the mediating banks agree. Niku should always try for an irrevocable LC. Confirmed letter of credit. This provides additional security for the seller. Here, another bank other than the issuing bank acts its guarantee. If the buyer's bank fails to make payment, this confirming bank will guarantee payment. Usance letter of credit. Here, payment is released at a later date and not immediately on receipt of documents. Back-to-back letter of credit. This is usually opened by a middleman who would buy from Niku and sell to a buyer. The original LC is opened by the buyer for the middleman. The middleman then opens a back-to-back LC for Niku against the security of the original LC. This gives security of transaction to the buyer, middleman, and also to Niku. Transferable letter of credit. These again are used when middlemen are involved. Under this LC, the middleman can request the nominated bank to transfer the payment directly to Niku. Standby letter of credit. Unlike a standard LC, a standby LC allows seller to obtain payment even when the buyer has failed to pay as per the bond. This is similar in nature to a bank guarantee. Red clause letter of credit. This allows the seller to receive partial payment prior to shipment. When taking an LC, Niku should make sure to check the conditions on the LC. She should also check the credibility of the issuing bank. Further, she should note that LC is still subject to risks such as change in buyer country's policies or risks of fraud, etc. by the buyer. Hope this video helps Niku in finalizing an LC. Niryat Bandhu wishes Niku all the best.
Sir, your voice is mute.
Sir, your voice is not coming.
Turn your cameras on. Come back. Let's exchange questions from you regarding letters of credit. I'm listening to your questions. What do you want to know? What do you understand from what you saw? These are questions for the exam. I'm listening.
Sir,
Yes.
I understand those two banks is the buyer banks and seller banks. What about the nominee bank?
Nominees bank. There's normally two banks involved. Okay? There's a bank from the seller and there's a bank from the buyer.
Yeah.
So the bank from the buyer will be issuing the letter of credit. It's the issuing bank. Okay? So I'm the buyer. I buy from you. Okay? So you are selling to me. So you're out selling to me a certain product from your country. And I need some documents in order to import that here. Who's speaking? Dhruv, it's in the, your friends are speaking loud. Okay? Tell them to take a break and stay with me. Okay? So the issuance bank, me, I'm buying from you. It means I have to redraft. You asked my bank, you asked me to for a text of the letter of credit. What will be the conditions? Now, I'll try to find you a draft of a letter of credit. Just give me 1 second. Draft letter of credit. Image. Yes. Just give me a second. Okay, this is interesting. Very good. Okay, let me share something with you. When you're selling me your product, you give me some conditions. It should be clear in the letter of credit. Your shipping, it's gonna be CIF, cost, insurance, and freight. Port of Montreal. I will pay at site. At site, it means when the documents are ready, all the documents, when they're ready, there will be, you will give them to your bank. They will send it to my bank. My bank will look at the documents. If they correspond to what is in the letter of credit, they will pay your bank and you will get the money. So the documents are the most important part. They have to be clear, complete, and perfect. Documents include an invoice, an invoice, a certificate of origin, a bill of lading, maybe some inspection certificates. If it's food, it has to be certified by the Department of Health or veterinarian or whatever, these type of things, USDA, whatever, okay? But normally, bill of lading, commercial invoice, certificate of origin. These are the three mostly needed documents. But you would need also maybe a packing list. How many boxes of how many pounds? See, if I'm shipping to you, if I'm shipping to Mexico, beef quarters, okay? They don't weight the same. All quarters have a different weight. So a packing list would specify beef quarter number 1, 326.4 pounds. Beef quarter number 2, 316.7 pounds. Beef quarter number 3, beef quarter number 4, for box number 1. And the whole thing for 40,000 pounds for a full truckload or container load. Okay? So a letter of credit normally would cover all these elements. Let me show you, share screen, screen 3. There you go. No. Here, share. So this is an example, right? Whoops. Of what a text of a letter of credit would be like, okay? This is from whatever bank, City of Grain, whatever. This is to advise that hereby extend its irrevocable credit to with specific conditions. Now, if issued by the bank, normally the other bank will receive a telegram, a communication between two banks, a SWIFT, it's called, okay? And it would be in their own language, something like this. And there's a series of lines. Line 48, form, documenter of credit, irrevocable, transferable. See, we explained to you there are some differences in these letters of credit. There are some they talk to you about confirm, revocable, irrevocable, transferable, cite, deferred or usance, back-to-back, red clause. We don't need all this, okay? Normally, let's keep to the simple ones. A letter of credit issued by the bank is irrevocable. It cannot be changed. Once issued by the bank, it can only change if the buyer, the seller, and the bank agrees to change anything. Once it's issued, it's there, okay? Now, it could be payable at sight. At sight means the bank sees the documents, they agree to the documents, they pay, cite. The goods could be still shipping. Now, it could be with a deferred payment, okay, or usance, meaning it's 45 days from the date on the bill of lading. So the day it ships, you send the document, it gets to the other bank in 4 days, or 3 days, or 2 days. But it won't be payable until the 45th day after shipping. It gives some protection in case, if it's a food item, that it could be verified by the incoming government to be sure it's safe for human consumption. Okay, so that's why we would put not payable at site. Site, it's I show the documents, the bank pays right away. Right away, it's not right away. The bank looks at it, puts it on the pile. It takes some time. The pile goes down, and then the payment is issued. Okay. There was a mention with a transferable LC, and we see here on the Swiss bank, irrevocable and transferable. It means when there is an intermediary. So between you, the seller, and me, the buyer, there could be somebody in between. So the letter of credit is issued to that person in between who will transfer the rest of the portion of the letter of credit. In a transferable letter of credit, you can only change 3 things. The beneficiary, obviously, it's not the same. So let's say that Parmar is an intermediary, right? And Druve is the final beneficiary, right? But Parmar organized the trade. So I open a letter of credit to Parmar, transferable. I don't know transferable to who. It's not pertinent to me. Okay, so on the letter of credit, it will be written, this is for the benefit of Parmar. Then you can change that, and it's for Druve. The amount will change, the second change. So one is the beneficiary, one is the amount. So let's say that Parmar takes 10% for him. So if it's a letter of credit for $10,000, well, when Parmar transfer the rest of the portion of letter of credit through his bank, not him personally, he will transfer $9,000, not 10, right? And the dates of expiry will change, okay? So if the letter to Parmar is for the 30th of June, maybe he will make sure that Druve gets the 20th of June on it. So there's a little protection in time. This is a very useful tool when you're an intermediary and you don't have money. You can do that. So you can enter into the transaction. But Druve gets a letter of credit from my bank to him. You cannot change the Incoterms. You cannot change the shipping terms. You cannot change anything else but the beneficiary's name, the amount, and the expiry date. That's it. 1, 2, 3. So it's a good tool. So if I go back to my Swiss bank thing, right? So form of documentary of credit, irrevocable, transferable. There's a number for that. Date of issue, applicable date, etc., etc. Beneficiary name, currency, detail of the currency, euro, USD, the amount. Normally, on the letter of credit, you should write on the amount and the quantity of the goods plus or minus 5%. Because let's say I'm shipping beef quarters, 42,000 pounds of beef quarters. If there is 41,768 pounds, it's not 42,000. The bank would not pay. So I would write plus or minus a certain percentage. Okay? And some of the details. Okay? So normally this is what we agreed on, and on the purchase order, though the purchase order that is being issued to you, selling to me, those details should be there. Okay? Let's get out of there. Dhruv, is that clearer? Yes, very good. More questions. Frédéric, you don't have a question?
No, it's clear to me.
It's clear to you?
Yeah, I might have to watch the video again.
Yeah, again.
By the end of the week.
And again. Because there will be a few questions on letters of credit. Okay? And there is something I wanted to show you. This? No. This? Yes. Let me show you something else to finish this portion. Here's in terms of a graph, and I will put that graph accessible on your TAV Facebook page. These are all the steps, right? So first step, offer and acceptance of contract of sales. Number 2, ask bank to open the letter of credit. Then the importer's bank, the buyer, the one who pays, right, will issue a letter of credit to the exporter's bank. Number 3. Then number 4, the exporter's bank, the one who will get the money, will get a confirmation from the bank that the letter is there and it's in conformity to all the conditions. Then you can ship the goods because you're sure that the money is there. Number 5, shipping the goods. Once the goods are shipping, the documents are in your hands. You, the seller. So you can bring the documents and bring it to the bank, who will verify if the documents are in conformity. If it is, and if it's a site LC, the bank has the obligation to pay. Normally it would like pay on the spot, but it's never on the spot. It will go on a pile of papers. It may be payable the next day or the following week, but normally it's a short term. They will ship the documents to the importer's bank to be reimbursed. Normally they should not wait for the money, but sometimes if it's a new transaction with a new country, with a new bank, they will wait for the money to come back in their hands. The banks are not there to take any risks. Now, if they're used to this, if it's between a French bank and a Canadian bank, they've been doing business for billions of dollars every year, they feel safe. But if it's from a Nigerian second-class bank, a Canadian bank would wait for the money to be here before they would pay you, right? Once the money, so they normally, before a bank issues a letter of credit, they need the money. So that graph, you should know by heart. Know by heart. You will have access to this for maybe a question at the exam. That graph is very important. This is how a LC works, right? So you have to review these elements in order to be comfortable. Remember one thing, it was mentioned in the videos. All these letters of credit are run and used according to a set of guidelines by the International Chamber of Commerce in Switzerland. They're called the UCP 600, okay? This is the world regulation for letters of credit. It's the same rules all over the world. So whether it's a Taiwanese bank or an Australian bank or a German bank or an Indian bank, the rules are the same. They don't change. Now remember the Incoterms, which is a set of rules proposed by the ICC, International Chamber of Commerce. It's proposed. You may use them, but it's not mandatory. Now, if a bank uses a letter of credit, it has to go with these rules. Now, if you don't use Incoterms in your negotiation, you don't have to. But if we agree to use Incoterms because it makes business a lot clearer. Karmar is on his phone talking to a friend. I don't know what it is. So on letters of credit, standby is not something I want you to remember. Back to back is not something I want you to remember. Red clause is not something I want you to remember. I want you to remember site LC or deferred payment LC, usance, deferred payment. I want you to remember irrevocable, transferable letters of credit, okay? For your knowledge at this time and for the exam and for the wine from Canada to India, I want to see a letter, the use of a letter of credit in your PowerPoint. I want to see that, okay? Okay, we take 10-minute break. Yes? 10, 15 minutes.
Could
Yes?
you send the link to the video as
I will.
on Omnivox?
I no, on the TAV Facebook page.
Okay,
Okay?
thanks.
I hate Omnivox. That's why I got a Facebook page for you people. It's a lot easier for all of us to work with. Okay? And I will put that, not today, not tomorrow, but Friday I will put it up. Okay? Maybe earlier if I have the time, but tomorrow I will not be here. Friday I will be able to do that, the latest. Okay? After the break, we're going to talk about other forms of payment, mostly pertinent to what we want to do with the fur with Korea. Okay, so let's take it's 7 o'clock. Let's take a break till 7:15. Okay, you agree? You agree? Thank you very much. Break time. Dhruv, Frederic, Gurjant, Nishint, Parma, Shukman, welcome back. Come on, turn on. Yeah, welcome back. Dhruv, Gurjant, Nishint. Yo. Hello. Ah, we long the times when us teacher we could have a stick, you know, and pow, no more. I'm just kidding. Okay. So we looked at the graph representing the security or on security on payment. Payment is the most important part of things here, okay, in international trade. I want to get paid. Now, if my client is in another country somewhere else, if I don't get paid, I'm in trouble because, see, if I do business in Montreal and my client in Montreal doesn't pay, I'm going to go with my cousin who's bigger than me, right? And I'm going to wait for the guy to come out of his door early in the morning. I'm going to grab him by the neck and I'm going to shake him until I get my money, right? Now, I cannot go in Brazil or India and try to do this. I'm going to end up in trouble, okay? That's why we need those tools in order to make sure that we are less exposed to a risk. Now, letter of credit is the most secure and the most used tools in the world in order to do this. But there's are other ways. To get paid in advance is one of them. To maybe paid later, but having the receivable insured. So when I propose in my negotiation a product, a price, a delivery schedule, an Incoterm, and a payment term with payment tools, I normally start in my proposal with the harshest, most secure form of payment that I want. I want to be paid in advance in cash, which is not acceptable. So in between, there are many possibilities. One of them being letters of credit or presentation of documents through the bank, but that I have to get insurance. I can do an open account. That also is possible, but I need an insurance. I can mix. I can have a certain percentage paid in advance by a wire transfer, bank to bank, by a Western Union if I want, right? By PayPal if I want. I can do that. PayPal has an international payment system, Xoom, X-O-O-M, right? I can use that in order to transfer $10,000 to Parma's account. I can do that, okay? So it would be a partial payment up front. Maybe the rest would be on letter of credit, maybe on presentation of documents, cash against document type of payment, and or an open account at the end, 50% up, 50% after, or 30% up, 30% on shipment, and the remaining 40% after delivery. I can do all kinds of combinations. There are all kinds of possibilities as long as I reduce the risk of non-payment. The risk of non-payment for me is very welcome. Well, that's a surprise and a beautiful smile. We're happy. No, I'm happy. See? Good. You're here. So you were not here before, but you just got in front of me. Okay.
I was here. I was here, sir.
I'm teasing. You know I'm always teasing.
Okay.
Especially you. Okay? So we need to be secure. Security is the most important part here. Security. Now, if I'm shipping wine from Canada to India, if I want to act in between, let's say that Parma and his team wants to be trading house, but he has no payment. Ontario people will not accept that Parmas pays when he gets the money, but they will accept a letter of credit, which has been opened to Parma and transferable to the supplier in Ontario. That's a possibility. That's a strong possibility. So you could do that as your proposal for payment. We understand that a container load of wine, I don't know how many bottles fits in there, you'll be able to search and find. If you look on Alibaba and you look for wine suppliers, you will find there how many bottles of wine fits in a container. And if you look at the suppliers of wine in Ontario, you will see their retail price, remove 60%, and you have roughly a cost price. And then you can do the calculation. Did you note what I said? I hope you did. Okay, now, so this gives us an idea for a container. If I want to sell fur coats by e-commerce in Korea, okay, we said in the conversation we had before that we should have an e-commerce site for Korea, ends in Korean, payment in US dollars, I guess. And we should offer 1, 2, 3 type of fur coats. 3 design, 3 types of fur, something like this. But we'll stick to 1 just for that example. So 1 coat, small, medium, large, e-commerce, in English and Korean. Now, let's say that a coat here costs, and I said, have a look on the Bay Company for their fur coats. They sell retail, remove 60%. You have an idea of the cost, but you sell it the same price they do, delivered in Korea by FedEx, Purolator. You can find the price of the shipping on the link I gave you last week. You need the HS code. But payment will be given to you how? Payment will be Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, Square, maybe not Square, but PayPal, PayPal using Visa, MasterCard, PayPal for security. So you would have to look at, for your presentation, getting a payment from Korea to Canada and US dollars for you. Now, I don't know about you, but if I want to put $4,000 on my credit card, I can do that. But I would be more secure to pay through PayPal, who will give me guarantee that if the shipper, you, don't ship, PayPal will refund me. So, but if you have a PayPal account, which is not the case today, we don't need an open an account, but to have a look at what it needs for a company account. It needs to be secure, as to show that a company is registered, has a company number with the Canadian government, has a bank account, has credit facilities, credit card usage, with everything else. They will verify all this. It will be described, if you look on paypal.ca, how to open a company account. So when a Korean wants to buy a coat from you, he's secure that he's paying you with his credit card through PayPal that if you don't ship, it will be refunded 100%. This is very good. This is very secure. This is the most important thing, security for the buyer. So in your presentation, you would have to look at these tools and put that in a PowerPoint using a PayPal account, so the client can pay with a credit card, or you can propose a bank transfer. So have a look to any bank, Royal Bank, the bank that you use here for direct transfer from Korea to your bank account in US dollars or in Canadian dollars, whatever, and tell us how it works. But if they use that directly to your bank account, you get the $4,000 for the coat. You don't buy, you don't ship the coat, and you run away with the $4,000. Now, as a buyer, I would be insecure. With PayPal, I would be more secure. It's a smaller amount, but you have to figure out how much it costs to ship over there, maybe a few $100 maximum, which is not relevant on the value of the good, $4,000 plus 200 shipping. You make $2,000 profit on a $2,000 coat, $4,000 minus shipping $200, you end up with $1,800 for you. Plus insurance, you need to insure, so maybe another $100. So you end up with $1,700 profit, more or less. I'm just making these numbers. Check it out, okay? But it would be good enough, okay? So what I'm trying to convey here is the important. Yes, I'm listening. You have a question, Parma? Turn your microphone. Maybe he was not talking to me.
Hello.
Yes, I'm listening.
I gone through one website. It's A1 Freight Forwarders, and I put everything like from Montreal warehouses to Mumbai warehouses. Okay, I put that thing, and they have a lot of info. Like they ask for a lot of questions, but I go with the random numbers. The weight is like a 35.31 kg, and they give me the approximately total of cost. $372.52 USD.
That's good. For the exercise that we're doing, it's good enough. It's sufficient. It's not perfect, it's not complete, but it's sufficient for us because we know, because we've been together last semester, we know you can bring wine to India. We know you can bring Canadian wine to India. So we have to figure out some numbers. They're not the real numbers, but in this case, this is what we're going to work with. If we were in class together, we would do the exercise in class together. We would be more rigorous. We cannot do that. Your microphone is off. Microphone. I don't hear you. Okay, so everybody's gone. This is the material I have for you this week. Remember to read your chapter 8, right? Next week, we're going to talk about the review of the content. I have a video for you, and I have a graph to explain, and that will be all. I wish
Sir,
you good
exam will
evening.
be easy.
You have a question?
Sir, exam MCQ and question or short answers? What kind of exam?
There will be 20 questions with a series of choices, multiple choice questions.
Okay.
20 of them. And 3 questions with development. I ask you like I did with the intro exam.
20 MCQ questions.
and 3 development questions.
Okay, okay. Means there will be 23 questions.
No. Yes. Yes. 20 multiple choice.
Okay, okay.
3 you have to describe. You have to show me.
Okay, okay.
Okay?
So it
you
will
have-
be easy.
maybe you have to draw a graph, something like this.
So it will be easy.
Sorry.
It will be easy.
Easy. Easy for me.
I know that.
For you, I don't know. If you read, if you prepare yourself accordingly, this is why we will review next week. Now, in everything we'll review next week, I will manage to cover most of the questions.
Okay, sir.
So be present.
Yeah.
Okay? We'll talk about the exam next week. The exam will be online, open, available for you the following week at the regular class hour. It will open at 4:30 p.m. It will close at 8:30 p.m.
Okay, sir.
You have 4 hours. Normally, that exam is a 2-hour thing.
Yeah.
So you have twice the time. Okay, and I managed to make sure that the questions are simple enough. All right.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Bye, sir.
Good evening. See you next
Bye,
week.
sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.